Hello and welcome to the Right Click Save podcast. I'm your host Calcio. I'm obviously joined by Jimmy T today. How you doing, Jim?
Very good. Yeah, all good.
We've actually got a really special guest with us today. I think it's fair to say, without blowing too much smoke up your arse, you've had a pretty impactful, pretty big impact on the NFT space. Obviously, you've launched your own project really successfully. You've been advising and, well, not advising, but consulting people for quite a while on the space as well. It's BenJammin. How are you doing today?
Good, man. Good. I appreciate you guys having me here. It's funny that any time I get someone that has any kind of accent, they always say BenJammin instead of BenJammin.
It's BenJammin. I thought that
as well. BenJammin, there we go.
So normally we've got a bit of a thing with the podcast that he never gets the name of the podcast right. Like we've done about this is probably our 12th episode, and he's probably got it right about 3 times. So he got it right then, and I was like, yeah, okay, he's nailed it. He's got it, and then he got your name wrong.
I tried. Jim's the talent of the podcast.
I appreciate the effort.
I'll take that. That's good. I'll take that. Well, again, I just wanted to jump straight in, really, like we normally do, and just ask you a straight question. What was it for you emotionally with NFTs that got you involved? What was it that you felt when you first got involved? Do you remember at all?
Yeah, and it's interesting because I kind of look at my NFT career as starting 2 separate times. And it initially started in 2017 with CryptoKitties. And at the time, I actually didn't know that they were NFTs. I didn't know the name of it. I didn't know the branding of it. What I knew was that it was a lot more fun to breed and buy and sell these cats than it was to just buy and sell Ethereum. So to have a new way to approach something that was making myself money, putting me in a position that I can focus more on things that I wanted to do, and to be able to do that, but also have another element of gamification to it at a time where I wasn't really in tune with the entire ecosystem that was being built. It was just something I was into cryptocurrency, and I found CryptoKitties through Ethereum, and I just enjoyed doing it for a while. And so my second time that I would say I was reintroduced to NFTs in more of the formal sense was this year with Top Shot, NBA Top Shot. And through that is where I really started doing my research into what non-fungible tokens are, the different types of tokens that are out there, how they interact with and impact the ecosystem that we're working in. And so to be able to do that, but also have these really, really cool looking, almost cards, but they're called moments, these videos of NBA players that I've been watching for years, and being able to feel like I have ownership of this collectible was just something that was very revolutionary to me. So emotionally, it was something that was able to, keep me building and thinking about what the future is, because I'm seeing this cool technology, but also being able to have gamification and buy things that I have ownership of was just really a new, profound experience for me.
Did you find it was like you got sucked right down the rabbit hole immediately, or was it quite a gradual process for you?
Funny enough, I usually slip quickly down rabbit holes. But when it comes to money, it's something I try to be a little bit more hesitant about. Yeah. So it's like a kind of a meme at this point with some people, but I did a couple of weeks of just straight up research into NFTs before I was willing to buy into Top Shot. And it's funny because, I bought into CryptoKitties without really doing much research at the time. It was a lot cheaper. So at this time, I was thinking of putting, I'm older, I have more money saved up. I'm thinking of putting more money into this ecosystem. So I wanted to learn and understand about who was behind it, how did it operate. And once I realized that Dapper Labs was responsible for CryptoKitties, which I had initially learned about, and not only did they, really start what I had thought was the revolution of NFTs, they had run into trouble at the time with Ethereum, and they congested the network so bad that they had to find a solution. And in doing so, they created their own blockchain called Flow. So to me, understanding that and learning that really got me in and to put my money in. And so I guess I could say it's a lot different now in the way we research projects and the time that we spend on. Most of the time it's, my friend sends me a text, say, go get this, and I do, right? So it's a little bit different. But I would say it was a gradual slip into this rabbit hole. And then once I was in it, there was no getting out.
Yeah, I'm very much someone who just gets sucked straight down the rabbit hole. I mean, I always have to do the research as well, but that's mostly I need to justify it to myself. I just aped in 10 grand on whatever NFT project someone was suggesting, and then I've got to right. Hang on, I need to justify that. Maybe I need to switch that over and do that research first. I know Calcio likes to ape into everything.
Yeah, it's a bad trait I've got. Were you a physical collector of like NBA merch and cards beforehand, or was it just something that digitally you were more connected with?
No, not at all, actually. The only thing I ever collected was sports trophies. So, I played a lot of sports my whole life, and I was on the computer. Like, I did a lot of, gaming, a lot of learning, code and graphics and all this kind of fun stuff. And then the rest of my time was spent, on a football field or a basketball court. So I didn't really enter those worlds of collectibles and trading cards and things like that, and buying and selling sneakers and shoes. It was just not what I was into. I wore the same pair of shoes until I run them into the ground, the rubber's fading off of them, yeah. Right? And so I never really had that mindset of collecting, where a lot of my friends were buy and sell Jordans and stuff like that. Just wasn't really for me. So I spent a lot of time playing video games, and then the rest of the time was playing sports. And so I loved sports and I loved the cards behind it, but I never really had a fascination or an excitement in myself to buy and hold these things. And maybe because I came from a family that didn't have a lot of money, and so for me, even if I wanted to, I probably couldn't buy and sell these things. So it just wasn't something that I had learned about. My father wasn't into it. So I like it now, the collectible aspect, but I really like the trading aspect more. The things that I collect now tend to be art. The other stuff I tend to trade.
Cool. So like for me, it's really interesting because I work with collectibles. That's what I've always done. So naturally, my flow wasn't from crypto. It was NFTs, because collecting is such a big thing in my life, and it just made sense. So when you first looked at NFTs, what do you think the switch was to make you want to collect them? Was it solely based on seeing that you could make money and enjoy doing it and trade, or?
Well, I think when we look at my entrance into it, it was about trading. It was about buying and selling these cool things that I can buy a few of, sell some of them off, and keep one for free, basically for house money, right? And so I wasn't really looking at it as I'm going to buy this thing and hold it forever. I was looking at it like I'm going to try to make some money out of this and hold the things that I don't want to sell. So I wasn't looking to collect, but over the course of finding new things, I'm like, oh, this is one, you know what? I'm not going to sell that one. I really like Chris Paul, one of my favorite players. I think he's going to retire and, be in the Hall of Fame. So I'm just not going to sell those. But these other ones, the Kem Birches or like all these players that, you get a layup on, you don't really care about. Those are things like I'll buy and sell and trade them all along. So for me, it was about the technology, what's happening with the technology, the community that's being built around it, and the fact that I can make money from this.
Yeah, the money thing is always nice. What's the rarest thing you've ever minted? That's always something that interests me.
Jim just hit a 1 of 1 basically, so he wants to shoehorn that in, I think.
It's either the deadheads. I got a gold deadhead. Nice. When I minted. That was a top rarity. That I sold. It was one of my first really big sales. And Tom Sachs rocket. So I worked with the Tom Sachs team, and when you minted, you got 3 per wallet, and you would either get a nose cone, a body, or a tail. And they give you the opportunity to mint a full rocket, because 3 parts, if you get 1 of each, you get a rocket. And so I minted 3 pieces, and I got a nose, a body, and a tail out of the 3 of them. And the tail had a Hello Kitty sticker on it, which was super rare. So I got this full rocket, I got the Hello Kitty sticker, and I was able to sell the Hello Kitty sticker tail for like 15 ETH or something like that. I bought back at a floor tail and then made it into a rocket. And so I would say like that was one of my most profitable and rare.
But that was a good day.
It's not gone badly. It's not gone badly.
Yeah, couldn't have worked out any better, I don't think.
Yeah. And do you mint a lot then? Because I mean, a lot of people talk about flipping the NFTs, and they don't think about the fact yet you can also, there's that extra variable, you can draw a rare one in there as well. Do you find now that you've had that success with a few, that means you're minting a lot more projects than you would?
Actually, no. And mostly I would say because of a lack of time and current gas prices.
I feel that.
Right. And so I would say like, and also an overabundance and a saturation of projects coming out where, back around when Bored Apes launched, you were getting, 3 to 5 drops in a day, maybe here and there. And you had time to look at them, know what's coming up, when to plan, so people would coordinate and you would have a whole community waiting for specific drops. Whereas here, there's 20, 25 drops a day. It's hard to have the time to be able to be not just at all the ones you want to, but be at the ones where other people are coordinating to go. So there's a lot to it. And what I like to do in these times, especially with gas prices, I don't want to be involved in any kind of gas war or anything like that for the most part, unless it's like super high demand. But I like to sit back and watch and see how things go. And, how is the community reacting? Are they dumping right away? Are they holding the floor? Are they rallying around the project? How are the devs? Are they being responsive? Those are the kind of things you want to look at. But, the lack of time that a lot of us have now with not just being involved in the trading aspect, but the community aspect and the building aspect, is that we can't always be around for each individual drop. And if they sell out, they sell out. So I would say that I would love to be around for every drop, be able to understand everything that's happening, because there's some days, man, where I look at the previous day, I'm like, man, I wish I was there for that drop because it was at 0.08 and today it's 1.5 floor. So you can miss out on things by not being around. But the cool thing is, if you're involved and you have the time to be around and you have the time to research, you really, really can land on serious gems in this industry, and still happening every day.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you with the sitting back approach. I'm definitely seeing that a lot more in projects where they've got these huge whitelists and it goes live and everyone's just seeing how quickly it kind of goes. And when they suddenly get a bit of volume, you see that snowball effect that happens on the projects. But often you find a lot of projects that look on the outside, the metrics look good, the community looks strong, it looks like it's something that's going to pop. It's just kind of really kind of tentative launch where people are just holding back and everyone's kind of chatting in sort of sub communities. Are you going to buy? Are you buying? Are you buying? Who's buying? I'm ready to buy, but I want to see if anyone else is buying.
Right. Well, here's a little tip. So there's a few things with social media and Discord in general as well, I guess. But it's very easy to get a lot of followers, right? Yeah. So when you're on Twitter, you can do giveaways, you can ask for people for engagement, you can do all kinds of things. But what some people can do, and I'm not going to say anybody specifically does this, is you can really ramp up certain social media accounts, do a lot of engagement farming, build the follower accounts very, very high, wipe all of the posts, change the name, change the account to NFT project XYZ, and now you have a built-in base with like, wow, where did all those followers come from? I have to get with that project, right? Now, I'm not saying any project specifically does or does not do that. I'm not going to put myself out there like that. But what I'm going to say is that is definitely a possibility. And with Discord, they could set up bots to join and do the same thing. So the tip here is not being able to do that, but being able to recognize that. And so when you're in a Discord or you're watching a Twitter, if there's 50,000 followers and there's 3 likes in 21 hours, or there's an announcement that's put out and there's 6 emojis, but 15,000 people in there, it's probably not real engagement. Yeah. So you want to be particular about the way that you use these metrics. And it's more about the blockchain metrics than the social media metrics. Does a project have a lot of unique users? What's the distribution between the largest holders and the smallest holders? So these are things that are verifiably proven by looking at the blockchain, and you can tell because people put their money where their mouths are.
Do you use any tools? So there's a lot of online tools that you can use for NFTs these days. Do you have any that you use?
Oh yeah, plenty. So I would say the one that I use daily is WGMI.io. So
Yeah.
this is a wallet that I use, and it shows me all of the NFTs I have, shows me all of the floors, the changes, but it also breaks it down for me by trait and gives me the ability to access every NFT, every trait, every floor that I need, all the activity, all the sell pages, everything I need, and it's about zero point 0.1 ETH, I think, in that's lifetime. So it's something I use every day. That if I ever have to sell anything, I do it through the WGMI.
Okay, cool. Nice. I've just written that down so I can check it out.
What's your kind of trading pattern like? Because what I really like with NFTs is how emotive it becomes, because with crypto, I wouldn't say it's cold, but it's obviously number based, right? We're looking at number, data, and we're going like that. With NFTs, you get that connection, like you said, with Top Shot, you're kind of keeping your favorite players. Is there anything consistently you do to kind of try to buy into things you don't want to be attached to, or are you just buying into things you feel? How do you look at your investments?
I guess the best way to answer that in from my perspective would be, I like to have a distribution within my portfolio. So the same way that I used to look at stocks, I would see, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, these would be blue chips. And you want to have a certain percentage of your portfolio allocated to these, low risk, long range type of plays. Then you also have this middle tier, this tier that has some risk a lot more risk associated to it, but also upside in that, it's not a blue chip yet in terms of price, but if there's an undervalued stock at $50 and I could see it going up to 150, but there's one at 150, but I could really see it going up to 200. I want to get more of that upside for, something that I could get more shares of, more percentage in my portfolio allocated to that. So I would say I have a percentage of blue chips, a percentage of these mid caps, but then you also have these low cap altcoin type plays, right? Like super cheap, if it 10x's at a 0.01, it goes to 0.1, right? But if I'm doing that, if I'm spending 1 ETH on something, I might ape in and try and get a bunch of these high risk, high upside plays that if it flops, that money is kind of just gone for me, where, those are my moonshot, my lottery picks. And so I like to have a distribution that I feel comfortable with in holding blue chips like, Bored Apes, Cool Cats, Gutter Cats, Pixel Vault, these ones that are like top tier. But then I also like to have the ones that are going to sneak up on you. And if they make one big announcement, it can go 5x and things like that. So I would say I try to have a healthy dose of all three of those categories.
That makes a lot of sense. I think it's really interesting as well, because you've been in NFTs at least as long as Bored Ape. So you'd be in the kind of modern ecosystem of NFTs, classed as old school in that sense. Can you remember the Bored Ape launch? Like, where were you? Did you mint? How can you remember the process you went through?
Yeah, so I try to think about this all the time. I really do, and try to remember the night, because I don't remember it. I really don't. One of the few things I remember about the night is that I saw this launching. I saw these Bored Apes. I heard people buying about it, and I got in. I bought my first at number 721. So it was fairly early in the mint process for 10,000 of them. And at the time, I didn't really have much ETH. So I don't remember like what I was doing that night, who told me about it, where I was. But I do remember this fact that I didn't have enough money to get more of them. And I had a lot of Zed Run in my portfolio at the time, digital horse racing and breeding.
Yeah.
And I had enough liquidity to get one Bored Ape. And then I said, the next morning, it's not going that fast. I'll wake up, I'll sell some of these horses, and I'll buy some more of these apes, right? Great plan. So I wake up the next day, and they're all gone. All the Bored Apes are gone, and I'm looking at it. The floor went from 0.08 to 0.2, and I'm kind of upset because I really wanted to get in. A lot of my friends who I've been talking to got a bunch of them. And so at that time, I started panicking and just offering to trade these digital horses to people for these two-dimensional apes. And it was funny because at the time, the Zed Run was worth a lot more than the apes, and people were asking me why I would trade these horses that you can race and breed and have fun with for these apes that you can't really doing anything with. And so I distinctly remember seeing that there was a flat pricing model, seeing there was a community rallying around it. They had members only perks, and they were just really looking to do different things with adding, complete IP, complete ownership of the assets. Whereas CryptoPunks, I believe, only allows you to, make like $100,000 in a year before you have to ask for permission. So seeing the combination of all these things and looking at the art and not really falling in love with the art, but saying that this is something that's could be fun and unique. And I see people, saying like, ooh, ah, like making all these monkey noises and stuff on Twitter and Clubhouse. It really showed me that there was a community being built around it. So what I remember from the night is that I wanted to get more and I couldn't. So I woke up the next morning and panicked and traded, 3 digital horses for 2 apes. That was a lopsided trade at the time, but has since come to
worked out well.
a positive end for me, for sure.
It's nice, yeah. It's nice that you can see that decision making and then obviously equate it to the success that's come from it. That's nice. I mean, I'm too often I'm doing it the other way. It's like, yeah, if I hadn't have aped in on this, I wouldn't have lost all that. Have
you still got the 3 original apes that you started with?
No. So I have my ape that I originally minted, Johnny Altcoin. That's my identity. That is who is on my profile picture on my Twitter and LinkedIn and everywhere else. And I think I had at 1.8 apes between trading and then buying more. So I believe it was 7 or 8, and then I sold a couple, bought a few more, sold a couple, and then I ended up with 4 at the end of it. So I still have those 4. My main one, Johnny Altcoin, that I held, and then 3 others. One of them of which I did trade a horse for. So from those initial 2 apes that I got from that trade, I do still have one of them.
Nice. That's cool. Nice. That's cool. Everyone's always got to know the ape story. I bet, is that what you get asked about the most, do you reckon?
No, actually, a lot of people don't really ask me much about that. When I'm on interviews, for sure, but like when I'm just talking to people, through Discord or Twitter, just in real life, mostly what they ask me about is like why I held so long, like what I saw in it, not just in that night of minting at buying one at 0.08, right? It's a lot easier to do. Like all you had to do is just be there and have the money, because I didn't make 100 ape bet conviction. I bought one of them that first night.
Yeah.
So the questions that I think I get most are how I had so much conviction to hold through, not just the floor going nuts and rising so much, but holding through the point of getting to over a 60 ETH floor, back down to under a 30 ETH floor, and back up to 50 without having sold any. And so those are the questions that I get, and my conviction is that
strong hands there.
Thank. But I also have a lot of other stuff in my portfolio that kind of balances it out too.
Yeah.
But I would say that the reason why I've held is because I feel that emotional connection to them in a way that's probably unhealthy for my portfolio, where the prudent move is to sell when I feel I should. But once I got past the point of the highs and the lows and saw it come back up, it put a lot of fortitude in my conviction of that. I think this can not only stay where it is but go higher.
Yeah.
And then once the roadmap 2.0 came out and the tokens and the DAOs and that conversation started, that just raised my conviction even higher, to the point where I said, if I was going to plan on selling anytime soon, that thought probably has slipped my mind, because if I hold now for another 5 months or so and I get an extra 20% from it not being capital gains, then I get more value from that as well after I have the token drop. So that's the thought process that I went through. And I know it's not the same for everybody. And, if I was more, kind of locked down, if I had, a few kids and a mortgage, where I wasn't as free as I could be right now, I would definitely sell one of.
Yeah, if you had a wife like going, how much is it worth now? We haven't been on holiday for a few years.
I got one of those. I just don't have. I got two puppies, but they haven't started asking me for gifts yet.
Yeah.
But for what I'm saying is, like, if I had more responsibility in that I had to take care of more people than I currently do, then I definitely would sell one of them right now, and pay off my house, my kids' college, and the things that I need to do. So I'm in the position, fortunately, to be able to have more conviction and hold longer.
Nice.
But it's a thought process.
It's useful for me at the moment because I think Calcio mentioned earlier, I did get a really lucky drop on. Did you see the properties launch? That the card I got, one of the top 10s, one of the 1-for-1s. But I've just got literally no idea what value it's got at all at the moment. I think we're just waiting for the proper white paper to come out this weekend. But I know it's going to be a tough decision in terms of what to, because the money would be great. So just no way of valuing it. So it's going to be an interesting ride, that one.
I was just going to say, I think the thing that you've kind of both highlighted there is that circumstance is actually king of making your decisions, because in 30 seconds, we've talked about you guys as polarized, right? For example, Jim's thinking, cool, I want to push on and be able to go full time with NFTs. I want to be able to make my own podcast and my vision. I want to go for that. Whereas for you, you're in a position where you've kind of got your consulting, you've launched your project. And so for you now, logically, holding makes a lot more sense. And I think that's something which a lot of people seem to forget. Everyone is massively different in not just this space, but every space. Like you talk about kids or having a wife, there's so many variables that often get forgotten about. I think it's just really important to highlight that we'll probably have people listening who are very, very, very well in tuned with their portfolio, like you are. You know what you're holding, you know why you're holding it. We've also got people who aren't so nearly there, and they might only have an ETH. And I just think it's quite important to look at the spectrum. And one question I really like asking guests that have established themselves in the space is, if you were coming in now and you'd not got any holdings in NFTs and you came in with, say, an ETH, what would your process be, and how different would it be to what you did however long ago it was when you first jumped in?
Sure, great question. And let me try to apply it to Jimmy's situation. So I give advice not just to projects, companies who are looking to launch, but I also give advice to friends, family, and strangers looking to get into NFTs, right? So I've been through a lot, through the person who has just enough money to get the free mint plus gas, to the person who wants to drop a couple $1 million and sweep up floors. So I would say, again, it's all about your perspective, and you need to know what your goals are. You need to know where you stand, what's in your wallet, how much risk tolerance do you have. And so again, it's about, if I was 16, like some kids in this space making some money, I wouldn't be taking out money. I'd be YOLOing everything, because at that point, you're still a minor, right? Like you got your whole life ahead of you. You got, so I'd be YOLOing everything. But like I sell, and I don't YOLO it all back in. If I sell 10 ETH, I'm taking out 3 ETH to pay, to put away, to pay for taxes, so I don't degen it all, but I still have my profits to work with. So if I'm in a position where I'm starting from scratch, or from lower, or my whole wallet gets wiped out because someone hacked me, right? Whatever situation you're in, the way I feel about it is you have to have goals, short term and long term. And so short term goals could be, I want to get enough ETH that I can buy into this blue chip that I really love, right? Properties is really cool, but if you can sell that for 50 ETH and buy a Bored Ape that day,
hell yeah,
my advice is you do it. But if you have 5 Bored Apes and you have this really rare property, and you're like, you know what, I have a lot of conviction in this project, and I think that this offer of 50 ETH is not enough, and over time I'm going to be able to get 150 or 200, right? So it's about the perspective and the way you look at it, and what you have and what position you're in. So what I would say is, and here's advice for different positions, because Jimmy, I don't know specifically what position you're in here, but if you're looking at it from a position of low holdings that you want to be liquid in, to be able to leverage and diversify your portfolio because you don't have one yet, You look at the pricing of what's selling, you look at the volume in which people are buying things, and you look at what makes your NFT unique, especially when it's a one-on-one. Like, what makes it so unique? What makes it so cool? What makes it so special that you can build a narrative or a story around it that you could sell to somebody? You don't necessarily have to sell the NFT, but you could sell the narrative around why it's important, why you have conviction in it and what gives you value, so that if listen, I don't want to sell it to you. I want to hold this thing, but I need that money right now, right? I want to hold this because XYZ, but I would prefer that ETH. So my position is that if you don't have a portfolio yet, you don't have a wide holdings that you're proud of, you take the liquidity at the moment you can get it. So if you can get 30 ETH from that, but if you wait a month, you can get 50. If you can get 10 ETH from that, but you wait a week, you can get 12. I take what's in front of me, right? I'll take that 10 ETH because I think it's worth a little bit more. But if I think it's worth 50 and all I have to do is hold it for a month, I might do that, but it could be a painful month. But if you have that conviction, which I don't recommend placing bets like that with a low portfolio, but if you have that conviction, that 10 ETH offer doesn't seem as appealing to you, right? So if you have less, you want to try to gain liquidity and leverage so that you can act upon it, but also so that you can hold ETH for when ETH raises in price, right? You may not have conviction in the floor or the volume or the liquidity of the NFT you hold, but if you're bullish on ETH and the ecosystem, you can get more liquid and make your decisions then, right? You could also sell that one of one and buy up a bunch of the floor, because the floor is more liquid and has the potential to do larger multipliers in the short term, because that's where people put their focus on, especially ones that aren't whales. So if you are in a medium position where, you have a little bit of a portfolio, you are looking at this like, man, I have this one of one, and I think this is really good for me. I can hold it for a long time and build on it and gain revenue from it, whatever it's going to do for you. But you can turn this into something in the short term that you really want in your portfolio, right? It's a one thing that I can swap this properties one of one for 20 ETH for this really nice cool cat or doodles or something like that I've wanted since the day I got into NFTs. I recommend you doing that because that's a play that you're going to be happy with. You can sell it if it goes up. If it goes down, you're not going to mind because you love it. And you're able to make those kind of plays because you have a little bit more confidence in your long-term plan with the portfolio you currently have. Now, if you're a whale, you go and do whatever the hell you want.
Well, if I get a few more of those, I could be a whale. Yeah, no, it sounds good. I quite like the numbers you were talking in us at first as well. When you're talking about 50, that sounded nice.
Do you think that's important then? So I love the fact that NFTs are so emotive, right? Because it's the big thing. You've said it a few times in this conversation, and we hear it all the time. Like, crypto guys coming over because they love that connection that they get. Say, for example, Jim gets 20 ETH for his properties, which is great, and he's looking to reinvest it. When he's doing that, would you be more swayed towards picking projects that you loved and engaged with, or would you be looking for him to try to buy things that perhaps he was less emotionally connected in, but in turn would make it easier for him to sell, if that makes sense?
I would follow what I talked about earlier with a portfolio allocation. So you would look to see, first of all, you got to go blue chip first, right? You got whatever you can afford that'll give you some liquidity left over to get into the other things that you want to take shots on. You go for that, because if you miss it and it goes up by an ETH or 2 ETH, you're out, right? Like, you can't afford it anymore. So if you sell for 20 ETH and you look, for instance, Doodles a few days ago was like 2 ETH or so, right? And you look and you're like, man, I really like Doodles. I want to play some long-term bets there. Let me get 2 or 3 of those, and let me get a couple off the floor, and maybe get a rare one. Maybe spend 30 to 40% of what you just gained, right? And then just put it in these plays that are like, all right, if I get into this now and I hold it long term, this 2 ETH per doodle that I'm putting in could turn into 6 floor, right? Or more. Okay, I'll place some bets there because now you're placing your bets on the upside of this potential blue chip, and there's less risk to it. Now, the rest of your portfolio, let's say you have like 60, 70% left of this liquidity, I always take some out. I take some out because I need to be a little more prudent. I'm trying to save for what future that I'm building. I also need to be paying taxes at a certain point, and when you sell and you're converting it to dollars, you're paying taxes on it. So I need to be careful about some of that stuff. So maybe take 10, 20% out. My whole life, I've always tried to take 10, 20% out of every paycheck I've gotten to put away and save. And so I do the same thing here when I sell. Just because I need to be careful. I need to make sure that if something happens and ETH goes to nothing, that I have some in stable coins or US dollars just to hedge. And so then you have, 20, 30% that you can work with, place some bets, ape into a few cheap things, buy some stuff that like maybe is, 0.4, 0.5 that you're like, okay, this has potential to go 1, 2 ETH floor. You place your bets and you spread them out. But I don't really ever recommend getting just one thing and that's the only thing in your portfolio, especially because, if you have 50 ETH, you buy an ape. Now you have an ape and you get all the benefits of having one, but that's all you have. You have a wallet, can't really do much with. Now, with an ape, I mean, you're going to get tokens, you're going to get airdrops, mutants, dogs, the stuff that they've given us holders. But that doesn't necessarily mean that every project you get into is going to do something where it's going to be valuable enough to lock up your ETH. So if you spend 50, right, on this Bored Ape, that there's a token coming at some point, but we don't know how much. We don't know what it's going to be worth. We can speculate, we can make predictions and projections, but at the end of the day, if you take that 50 and you buy 10 doodles at 2 and they all double within a few days, which what happened 2 days ago, now you have that money, buy an ape and go do whatever you want with the liquidity, right? You have all that profit you just doubled from. So it's all about opportunity cost and locking up your money where you're making it illiquid, but you could be using it to place bets on where, if you have a few losers, it's okay because the winners that you got gave you such upside that it was worth it. And then eventually you could still get up to that ape or whatever it is that you wanted to get. I think you always have to be looking at what the opportunity cost of locking up your money is compared to what you can do with.
Yeah, we talk about it a lot. We talk about it a lot, don't we, Cassia? The liquidity is the key thing. I mean, especially for me, the FOMO is strong. So if I've got all my ETH locked up in some projects that I'm holding, hoping they're going to go back up or whatever, then I'm going to end up taking a loss on something or trying to buy some more ETH to charge into my wallet just so I can FOMO in on the next big play that I want to invest in. So yeah, we definitely we're liquidity supporters here, definitely.
But you have to also be careful because if you're like me and you have liquidity and spend it right away, like some of what I do is like I transfer it out just so that I can't just spend it the second I want to do it because it happens. I'll be buying something, oh, this is nice, it's 0.15, okay, oh, this is a cool one, it's 0.2, let me get 7 more, and then I'm like, oh yes, you're in.
That's the classic Calcio move.
I do all the fucking time.
That's why we've got the sweeping brush behind him on the set.
I think there's one here, I quite like it, but then I really like that one, so I'll go get 5 more, so then just in case, and then before I know I've done that 4 times. So it's just really nice as well because we've spoken to so many different people, and it's really good when you do speak to someone who's been in the game a bit longer and their advice is just so clear and you've probably done the things that you're advising against. So it's nice to kind of get that reassurance. What I really like about you as well is that you've got your own project, which looks really interesting, and your artist is Buck Lewis, isn't it? Which is quite a coup. How did you guys get in contact?
Well, so our artist for the Dizzy Dragons project is Rob Levy, Rob Levy
Yeah.
Pixels. And so we Rob and I and some of our co-founders, we created the Dizzy Dragons project, which, you know, we added some really cool fusion functionality to it. We've built out the lore of the story, but we've created a second collection called Dizzy Demons, which are the antagonists of the Dizzy Dragons. And so Buck Lewis played a role in the creation of that art with Rob. So Rob has the connections with Buck. Rob and I have been friends since, you know, we were like early college days, maybe even late high school. So we've known each other a long time, and so he made the connection with Buck. They made the Dizzy Demons art together, and they're working on building out the lore and the world. And Oliver also has played a very big part with the lore as well, the storytelling.
Awesome.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's really, really nice to see a project that's a little bit different, that's really based on storytelling and trying to build an environment that's there for players, but it's also quite engaging for your player base, because I'm right in thinking that your game is going to be shaped as well by the player base. Is that right?
Yeah, so Rob is conceptualizing a different type of 2D pixel games that could be played in this universe, and yeah, definitely want it to be community focused and community driven, because, you know, they're playing a role in the IP that's being built out, and the characters that they own and the visions that they want to see, you know, is not just being heard by the community and the team, but acted upon. And so Rob really likes to involve the community in the storytelling aspect of it, and there's been a lot of that, and so it's really cool to be a part of a project like that. And Rob being the lead artist, he's also playing a much bigger role in the operations now. And so to see the vision that he's, you know, taking the direction in is just really interesting and really fascinating.
For someone that's not familiar with the project, can you give us a minute summary of what you guys are doing with Dizzy Dragons? And I just saw your Roadmap 2 came out fairly recently. Can you give us a general summary?
Yeah, sure. So coming from a background of film and media that Rob has, and the storytelling behind, you know, creating worlds like that, it's really important that we talk about the focus on the lore, the story building, and the world that's being built. And if you look at the website, you'll see, scrolling down, we created this Dizzy Den. That was the website. So when you get on, you're in the library, and you go into the lab and the sports auditorium. And so we've conceptualized that, and we've partnered with Land Vault to build out this big sandbox den based on the world of the Dizzy Dragons and Dizzy Demons. And so there's a lot of focus that's going to be put on, you know, what's done in this metaverse, you know, Web3, augmented reality, virtual reality. But the gaming aspect of it is, to me, what's always going to be the biggest. You know, when you have the gaming platforms come in, the Fortnites, like the Minecrafts and stuff like that, the Roblox, those are what's going to explode this industry. So having a focus within, you know, the sandbox environment and being able to set up this world that our users can collaborate in and have fun and play games in is a focus of what we're doing with Land Vault. And then also a 2D scroll gaming aspect of it, as well as merch and different lore building, and just seeing where things go. And, you know, because the thing with making a roadmap 1.0 and a 2.0 is people expect a 3.0. So I almost, when I look at that, I'm just like, oh man, are we gonna have, you know, roadmap 420 by the end of this? You know, so like how does that work? So we try not to say too much ahead of time about where we're gonna take it, so that we don't get trapped into doing any one thing with an ecosystem and environment that changes so rapidly.
I like that a lot, because I think it's a message we've seen work really well for a lot of projects, which is, when I say under deliver, I don't mean that they do long term, but if you don't promise or try to guarantee 101 things immediately, you don't run the risk of getting caught having to do things that are outdated. And we see so many patterns, and as you said before we recorded, so many metas in the space, that it's probably prudent to not commit so much straight away. How do you feel about your project at the minute? Is there anything that, because again, I know you do a lot of consulting as well. Let's say I've got a project coming out tomorrow, and I just want some advice on last minute tips. Is there anything that you'd give to a new founder?
Well, yeah, that's a good point, because with our project, we've been around since August, so we have a community.
Yeah.
They've seen us, execute on what we said we were going to execute on. So when we say we're going to execute on things, they have the confidence that we will. And so when you start a new project, it goes to like kind of what you were just saying with promising 101 things. When you have a new project now and it's oversaturated, you have to offer more than what's currently out there in most cases, because every degree of separation from the early days of NFTs, you have to almost add different utility and different benefits and different ways of doing things. So that's what makes it a little bit more different. And so we can take the approach of slowly building out and planning what we want to do. Whereas a project that's launching, you either have to have that already done and promised and lined up and set up, which takes a lot of time and effort and work, or you have to keep a smaller profile and focus on specific things that you want to do and be the best at doing those. Almost put yourself in a niche on purpose, but keep the audience large enough for mass adoption. So, for example, if you're a game trying to be an NFT project like Voxy's, you could have a much different approach, because the environment and the ecosystem knows you're building out for a very long time. So things are always going to be changing. There's going to be different things happening, but you're along for the ride. If you're a profile picture project and you're putting out NFTs and you're promising a game on the back end of it, but you're like, well, we don't really know what it's going to be. We're not sure where it's going to be, what engine is going to be built on, any of that stuff. But you say, no, it's done. We're doing the game, right? You don't have the confidence from a community to understand that you are or can or are able to do that unless you have people on the team who have experience in doing that in the past. So I think that you're setting yourself up for negativity and FUD if you promise so much ahead of time that anybody can promise, but don't actually have to execute on, because you say, oh yeah, we're going to do a game and it's going to come, a year and a half from now. It's like, okay, then I'll buy a year and 2 months from now and see how it goes. So like it's hard to say if like your main utility and benefits are coming so far away that you say, just trust me. But if you have the experience or the confidence from your community built up where you can say, listen, this is going to be long-term, along for the ride, but here's what we've done already and here's what we're going to do.
Yeah. Do you think that's going to be the next big trend? Is going to be projects that actually launch with their stuff ready? Because at the moment, every NFT seems to be almost like more of like an investment. It's like a seed investment that you're going in. They've made a nice picture. It's great. You've got to put your money in, and then eventually they're going to give you all this great stuff. But nothing's ready now. You've just got to believe in us because look how lovely this picture is. So yeah, I kind of think there's going to be a big trend of that. What do you think on that?
So when you look at how fast projects can actually come out, right? Like when Bored Ape launched, it was only a couple days where derivatives started coming out, right? Like when you see that happen, a project launches, a derivative can come out that day, the next day. They can fork the contract, change a couple of things, add some new art, launch it up there. So when you think about when did NFTs start getting mainstream popular earlier this year, there were projects that came out the next day that said, we're just going to put this out and hope people buy it. But there's also teams and projects that started at that time putting together real companies, real visions, real long-term plans that when things take a year to build and work behind the scenes and come out, when do we think those projects are going to start dropping, right? If Bored Apes was the incitement for a lot of creativity and projects being built, which it was, people starting around May, June, July. If something takes them 6 months to a year to 2 years for them to put out, to build an epic game or a really nice software, they're not going to drop it, in December or October of this year, because they need the time. They need to set it up. They need to build a team. They need to develop. They need to organize. So, for instance, a platform like Cryptoys that I advise and work with, they've been working for months and months, and they have a lot going on. So they're going to be ready with really cool stuff. And they could have dropped stuff in the last few months, but they want to put together something epic that people are going to be so excited about, that has long-term vision and plans. And it takes time to build up branding and partnerships as well. So behind the scenes, the teams that are working long and hard and even funding themselves or getting funding are going to start coming out with ready-made solutions for these projects, where it's not going to be, hey, buy our project, be our Kickstarter and fund us so we can go do cool things. I work with projects now that are being funded through venture capitalists and angel investing. So they're going to be coming out, out of the box, ready to go. And it's going to be really exciting when we have a lot more of those coming and a lot less of the low effort projects.
So you're bullish for 2022 then?
Bro, I'm bullish for NFTs. Name a year. Name a year, bro. I'm bullish on it. So I think NFTs and blockchain, it's not about a JPEG profile picture, which is a great entrance for people. It's about, the smart contracts, the technology being the medium on which this media is being shown, right? So you're seeing the pictures, you're seeing the music, you're seeing the art, you're seeing all of this. But what you're not really seeing is the underlying technology, because it's being developed still. And so what can be done, what will be done, is yet to be seen. And that's what excites me the most.
I love that. It's one of the best things I think you can do to be really motivated when you are in a space that we are in, is speak to other people who are really fucking motivated about it as well, because you just get more excited about the fact that other people are as excited as you. And just to kind of close off, a question which I want to start asking all of our guests is a really speculative one. Obviously, whatever you answer, no one's going to hold you to it. But at a total guess, where do you think the NFT ecosystem will be in 10 years' time?
All right, here's where I think the premiums are going to be for NFTs. Gaming is going to be number one. Media, which is film and music, will be number two. I put those together. And then I think finance and legal is going to be number three. The profile picture stuff, like, that's going to be great. Like, there's going to be blue chips of those. But when you look at what are going to be the billion-dollar companies, it's going to be the Fortnite of blockchain. And so it's going to be the Call of Duty studios of blockchain, where you're getting tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people playing and entering into this ecosystem where they can earn money and build careers off of, and stream and brand and influence and market. We're already seeing it with kids of this generation. So when you look 10 years from now, and the kids who are 16, the kids who are 13 who have been in this, right? There's 13-year-old kids in this world right now. I know some of them. It's wild. I've gotten their parents' permission to talk to them. But they come on Twitter Spaces. They're running projects. They're in it. Where are they going to be in 10 years? They're going to be the people leading the industry, and they're going to be, the Mark Zuckerbergs of the blockchain. And so I'm super excited to see where the youth is going to take it, because they've grown up on this. They've lived with this. When I'm looking at Sandbox, my boy was explaining to me today that in Minecraft, you can take wood and put it over water. And I'm like, but it's going to float away. You can't do that. Look, I'm digital. It's so much water. And he's just explaining to me, and I'm looking at this like a boomer, and my 10-year-old niece is like building Minecraft things, no problem. And so I'm a technically savvy person, and I'm looking at some of this stuff like, good luck, kids. And they're doing it, right? And so that's what I think. It's going to be gaming leading the way, and gaming, media, and finance and legal after that.
Yeah, I could have talked. I definitely think we're gonna have to get you back on, because I don't want to go on for another 2 hours, but I feel like we probably could. It's genuinely been a pleasure, Ben. I've been Calcio, your host, and of course, it's been Jimmy. Thank you ever so much for joining us today on the Road to Exciting podcast, and we'll see you again next week.
Glad to be here.